In the preface to Inside of a Dog, What Dogs See, Smell, and Know, Alexandra Horowitz introduces readers to the world of dogs, highlighting the depth of their sensory and emotional experiences. She tells the story of how she developed a deep interest in dog behavior, inspired by her own experiences with her dogs, especially Pump and Finnegan. Horowitz explains that dogs perceive the world very differently than humans, and this unique perception is essential to understanding their behavior and feelings. The author invites readers to abandon human assumptions and try to see the world from a dog's point of view. This preface sets the stage for a detailed exploration of the canine universe, emphasizing the importance of understanding dogs on their own terms to improve the coexistence and bond between dogs and humans. In the chapter Umwelt, From the Dog's Point of Nose, Alexandra explores the concept of Umwelt, which refers to the own world of each living being, that is, how each creature perceives the environment around them. Horowitz highlights that to truly understand dogs, it is critical to understand their Umwelt, which is significantly shaped by smell. She begins by describing how dogs, unlike humans, live in a world dominated by smells. While we can see a rose and appreciate it for its beauty, a dog perceives it through the odors it carries, such as the urine of other dogs or the touch of its owner, thus becoming an entity full of complex olfactory meanings. The book emphasizes the importance of understanding this canine sensory world to improve our communication and relationships with dogs. She suggests that dog owners try to imagine themselves in their pets' shoes, using their senses to explore and understand the world around them. This exercise in empathy, although difficult due to the limitations of human senses, can provide a richer and more accurate vision of what it means to be a dog. Alexandra also mentions the work of biologist Jacob von Uexküll, who introduced the concept of Umwelt at the beginning of the 20th century, revolutionizing the study of animals by focusing on the subjectivity of each species. With this, Horowitz invites us to consider not only what dogs see or hear, but mainly what they sense through their keen sense of smell. In the chapter Belonging to the House, Alexandra Horowitz examines the transformation of dogs from their wild ancestors to today's domestic companions. She begins with an anecdote about her own dog, Pump, who knows exactly the limits of what outside the kitchen means and enjoys the crumbs that fall from the table. This scene illustrates how dogs have completely integrated themselves into our homes and lives. Horowitz explores the origin of the word domesticated, which comes from belonging to the home. Domestication, according to her, is a variation of the evolutionary process, influenced by both natural and human forces. She describes how dogs descend from an ancient lineage of canines that resemble the contemporary gray wolf, but which were shaped by thousands of years of coexistence and human selection to become the dogs we know today. The author also reflects on the transformation of dog behavior through domestication, which made them develop loyalty and a special interest in us humans. Through examples and observations, Horowitz helps us understand how dogs' proximity to humans has shaped their physical and behavioral characteristics, making them true members of our families. In the chapter Sniff, Alexandra explores the extraordinary olfactory world of dogs. She begins by describing the morning routine of her dog, Pump, who, as soon as she wakes up, uses her nose to investigate the environment. The author compares dogs' olfactory perception with human vision, highlighting that, while we focus on visual stimuli, dogs decipher the world mainly through smells. Horowitz explains that dogs have an impressive number of olfactory receptors, much more than humans, and that each sniff is a highly active inhalation process, delivering odor molecules directly to the receptor cells in the dog's nasal passages. She also mentions the vomeronasal organ, a specialized structure that allows dogs to detect pheromones, adding an additional layer of sensory perception to their already impressive repertoire. The author details how different dog breeds, like Basset Hounds, are specially adapted for sniffing, with physical characteristics like long ears and moist snouts that help them capture and analyze scents more effectively. She recounts experiments that demonstrate dogs' incredible olfactory precision, such as identifying a fingerprint on a glass slide even after several weeks. For dogs, the world is a tapestry of complex scents, each telling a different story. Horowitz concludes that by allowing dogs to explore through sniffing, we give them a richer and more satisfying understanding of their environment, something we often take for granted as dog owners. In the chapter Dog Talk, Alexandra challenges the common notion that dogs are mute friends. She argues that although dogs don't talk like humans, they are far from silent or expressionless. They communicate through a rich variety of sounds and body language, including barks, growls, howls, whines, and body movements. Horowitz points out that dogs use their bodies expressively, with their head, ears, tail and posture conveying a large amount of information. Every movement is meaningful, from the swaying of the body to the raising of the eyebrows and the wagging of the tail, which can express a range of emotions and intentions. The author mentions that different breeds of dogs, due to their physical characteristics, may have different communication capabilities. Dogs with docked tails, for example, have a smaller repertoire of body signals, which can limit their ability to express themselves fully. Furthermore, Horowitz emphasizes that canine communication is multidimensional, involving vocalizations, smells, posture and facial expressions. She suggests that by closely observing these signs, dog owners can develop a deeper understanding and richer connection with their pets. In the chapter Dog-Eyed, Alexandra examines how dogs use vision to interact with the world and humans. The author begins by describing a scene where her dog, Pump, chases a tennis ball with precision and enthusiasm, demonstrating dogs' visual ability to detect and follow moving objects. Horowitz explores how dogs are able to pick up subtleties in human faces. They can distinguish our facial expressions and, through eye contact, understand our intentions and emotions. This behavior, which involves looking directly into humans' eyes, may have been one of the factors that contributed to the domestication of dogs, since the ability to read human emotions would be advantageous for survival and close coexistence. The author also mentions that dogs, although they have a different vision than humans, are extremely adept at interpreting movements and gestures. Dogs' vision is more sensitive to movement than to sharpness or color, which explains why a moving object attracts more attention than a static one. This focus on movement is a legacy of their hunting ancestors, who needed to detect moving prey. Additionally, Horowitz discusses the concept of visual Umwelt, where dogs perceive the world in a unique and distinct way based on their own sensory perspective. They combine visual information with other senses, such as smell and hearing, to build a rich, detailed understanding of the environment around them. With this, Horowitz invites us to reconsider our own visual perception and to recognize the complexity of canine vision, which is fundamental to communication and interaction between dogs and humans. In the chapter Seen by a Dog, Alexandra investigates how dogs visually perceive the world around them. She begins by reporting how dogs observe humans, highlighting dogs' ability to pay attention to our movements and gestures. Dogs, unlike humans, often fixate on moving objects, demonstrating particular attention to the dynamism of the environment. Horowitz describes the importance of mutual gaze, where eye contact between dog and human can signify communication and emotional connection. Dogs not only watch our faces, but also follow the direction of our gaze, something that indicates a deep understanding of our intentions and focus. The chapter also discusses how dogs use gaze to manipulate human attention. For example, a dog may repeatedly look at a desired object, such as a toy or food, to indicate its interest and intention to obtain it. This ability to use gaze to communicate desires is a notable feature in the interaction between dogs and humans. Additionally, Horowitz mentions that dogs can be adept at getting attention in subtle ways, using movements and expressions that capture human attention. They are able to show what they want through targeted looks and specific behaviors, highlighting the intelligence and adaptability of dogs in their home environment. Finally, the author explores how dogs manipulate the attention of other dogs and humans, using gaze and body posture to direct social interactions. This ability for visual manipulation reveals the complexity of canine interactions and the depth of their social cognition. In the chapter Dogs Who Study Humans, Alexandra Horowitz explores the idea that dogs are, in some ways, anthropologists who study humans with a unique dedication and insight. She argues that dogs have an innate ability to read and interpret human behaviors, often better than we can ourselves. She describes how dogs observe our gestures, facial expressions and body movements, using this information to understand our intentions and emotions. This human reading ability is fundamental for coexistence and communication between dogs and humans. She mentions studies and experiments that demonstrate how dogs can follow humans' gaze, understand our expressions and even anticipate our actions. The author also highlights that, throughout domestication, dogs developed advanced social skills that make them excellent observers and interpreters of human behavior. They are able to pick up on subtleties in our expressions and gestures, using this information to adapt and respond appropriately to our needs and desires. This ability to understand humans is one of the reasons dogs are considered man's best friend. Horowitz concludes that by studying dogs we can learn a lot about human communication and perception. She suggests that by observing dogs in their interactions with humans, we can gain valuable insights into our own forms of communication and behavior. In the chapter, The Mind of a Dog, Alexandra investigates canine intelligence and dogs' ability to learn, solve problems, and adapt. She begins by discussing how owners often attribute high levels of intelligence to their dogs based on anecdotes and behaviors observed in everyday life. Examples include dogs that know when their owners are about to leave or that seem to understand complex commands. Alexandra examines dogs' intelligence through scientific studies that test their cognitive abilities. She describes experiments where dogs are able to imitate human actions, such as pulling ropes or pushing swings, showing that they can draw analogies between their own bodies and those of humans. This suggests that dogs have a form of understanding that goes beyond simply repeating learned behaviors. The author also addresses the theory of mind, the ability to understand that other beings have their own thoughts and feelings. Studies show that dogs may have a rudimentary version of this ability, recognizing the intentions and emotional states of humans and other dogs. This ability to read and anticipate other people's behavior is fundamental for social interaction and communication between dogs and humans. Horowitz concludes that canine intelligence is multifaceted, involving not only the ability to learn commands, but also complex social skills and the ability to understand the world through a unique perspective. She highlights the importance of valuing and understanding these skills to improve the relationship between dogs and humans. The chapter Inside of a Dog is divided into two main parts: what dogs know and what it's like to be a dog. In What a Dog Knows, Horowitz explores canine cognition and the knowledge dogs have about the world. She discusses how dogs understand time, highlighting that they live intensely in the present, but have a sense of the past and future through habits and routines. The author mentions that dogs recognize recurring events, such as mealtimes or walks, and adjust their behavior according to these expectations. Horowitz also addresses dogs' self-perception, arguing that although they may not recognize themselves in a mirror, they have a clear understanding of their own bodies and physical abilities. The question of canine morality is raised, with Horowitz suggesting that dogs have a basic sense of right and wrong, learned primarily through interaction with humans and the consequences of their actions. What It's Like to Be a Dog focuses on the sensory and physical experience of being a dog. She describes how dogs experience the world from a low-to-the-ground perspective, using their powerful sense of smell and keen senses to navigate and understand their environment. She highlights the importance of touch and taste, mentioning that dogs often lick objects and even people to explore and connect with the world around them. Alexandra emphasizes that dogs live in a constant state of alert and presence, reacting quickly to stimuli and changes in their surroundings. This attention to the present allows them to notice details that humans often overlook, such as small movements or subtle sounds. Horowitz concludes that to truly understand dogs, we must consider not only their cognitive abilities but also their rich and complex sensory experience. In the chapter You Had Me at Hello, Alexandra describes the formation of deep emotional bonds between dogs and humans from their first meeting. She begins by narrating her daily greeting routine with her dog, who greets her with contagious enthusiasm. This simple moment of reconnection is illustrated in vivid detail: the sound of Pump's tail slapping the door, her nails scratching the floor, and the clink of her collar tags, followed by an affectionate touch of her wet nose and whiskers on the author's face. Horowitz suggests that these everyday interactions are the basis of the bond between dog and human, highlighting that mutual satisfaction in these exchanges is as natural as it is rewarding. She mentions that the human-dog bond is deeply rooted in the history of canine domestication and development, where rituals of greeting and physical proximity play a central role. The author argues that the relationship with dogs goes beyond mere coexistence. It is a subtle dance of interactions that creates a unique symbiotic connection. The book emphasizes that this bond is formed even before there is reflection or analysis, through shared experiences and mutual understanding. Horowitz concludes that the bond with dogs is a combination of animal instincts and cultural learning, resulting in a partnership that enriches both their lives. In the chapter The Importance of Mornings, Alexandra explores how mornings have become special times for her and her dog. Horowitz points out that by walking Pump, she began to see the world through her dog's eyes, appreciating things that previously went unnoticed. This shift in perspective is called Umwelt, which refers to each creature's unique sensory experience. Horowitz describes how Pump loved exploring different scents during her morning walks, and how these off-leash walks were moments of freedom and joy for both the dog and the author. Mornings became important because they offered the opportunity for long walks in relatively empty parks or beaches, allowing Pump to explore and sniff without restriction. The author emphasizes the importance of allowing dogs to be dogs, letting them sniff and explore the environment at their own pace. She suggests that dog owners consider their pets' sensory preferences when choosing walking routes and activities, so they can provide an enriching and satisfying experience for their dogs. Horowitz also discusses the practice of scent walks, where the goal is not the distance covered, but the amount of time the dog can spend exploring different scents. She notes that these walks can be incredibly beneficial for dogs' mental and emotional health, providing stimulation and satisfaction. Finally, Horowitz reflects on Pump's lasting impact on his life, even after the dog's death. She shares how the memory of their mornings together continues to influence her choices and perceptions, showing the deep connection and legacy left by her beloved dog. To conclude, The Dog's Head by Alexandra Horowitz offers us a deep and fascinating exploration of the canine world. Through the chapters, we learn about dogs' unique sensory perception, their cognitive capabilities, and the complexity of their communication. Horowitz highlights the importance of understanding and respecting a dog's Umwelt, providing them with opportunities to explore and express themselves in natural ways. By delving into the minds of our canine companions, we not only enrich our relationships with them, but we also gain a new perspective on the world around us. This book is an invitation to observe, learn and, above all, appreciate the rich inner lives of dogs. So, did you like the book? So express this emotion by liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to the channel, because there are lots of good things coming. If you have any questions about the content of the book, leave a question in the comments. We will be happy to respond. For those who want to learn, in practice, how to improve their dog's behavior, I recommend a great course, which offers valuable tips and practical techniques that helped me and are helping many people to understand and improve their relationship with their dog. The link is in the description of this video. Thanks for getting this far and see you next time.